Once more it is time for a departure from the review videos, since we have now finished to take a detailed look at the 10 novels of Iain M. Banks' popular culture series. As was the case for Peter F. Hamilton's Commonwealth series, I will now perform a completely personal assessment of the individual novels that comprise the culture series, without using any specific metrics. Certainly, the widely different style of each of the culture novels might put even further importance on individual preferences. Hence, it goes without saying that this ranking will therefore be biased, although I will try to briefly underline my reasons for the way the books will be ordered. Furthermore, there will be major spoilers for any of the discussed novels. So beware. The list starts with the state of the art on the 10th place. Actually, the state of the art is a reasonably good short story collection, specifically if compared to other examples of this medium, such as The Martians written by Kim Stanley Robinson, where there was certainly a drop in quality in some of the material. Nonetheless, in my case, short stories will always draw the short end of the stick when competing with full-length novels, assuming that both are of a somewhat similar quality, that is. Moving on to the 9th place, we can find the first full novel, both on this list and also in terms of its publication date, namely Consider Flavors. In my view, at this point in time, Iain M. Banks' writing style was not fully fleshed out yet. In addition, the protagonist Horza, in his quest to fight the culture, and his ragtag crew of pirates and mercenaries did not convince me as likable or relatable. Somewhat annoyingly, the bigger theme of the Idirian culture war, which is a pivotal event in the culture as referenced throughout the series, is not explored that much in Consider Flavors, if I'm being honest. Maybe Consider Flavors would have left a better impression had I read it later and not as my first foray into the culture series. The novel Inversions made the 8th place, in large parts due to its very subtle relation to the wider culture. It also lacks the wondrous aspect of all the technological and scientific marvels that are a staple in most of the other novels. In the end, Inversions is a competently written quasi-fantasy novel with only some hints at it being set in the culture universe. Certainly, this is one of the worst books to begin with in the series. The 7th place is taken by Look to Windward, the implied sequel to Consider Flavors. There are no specific criticism that I can hurl at this novel, but neither are there outstanding features that would come to mind instantly. Hence, Look to Windward ends up in the lower half of my personal ranking. The Hydrogen Sonata is 6th on the list, due to similar reasons that I mentioned previously for Look to Windward. However, the Hydrogen Sonata offers a couple of interesting and unique features that make it stand out a bit more. Specifically the somewhat more absurd elements, such as the eponymous sonata that has to be played on an instrument that has not even been invented yet, come to mind here. The novel Meta is ranked 5th, since in contrast to Inversions, it hits the right balance between fantasy and science fiction, with narrative threads on the shell world Sursaman and outside of it in the culture and beyond. Furthermore, the concept of artificial shell worlds is another bonus that also introduces cosmicist or Lovecraftian horror elements via ancient powerful beings beyond the understanding of even the technologically advanced culture. A minor point of criticism might be the complexity of the intertwined plots that verges on the convoluted, but to me this is only of secondary importance. On the 4th place, we can find Use of Weapons. It is the first novel, in terms of its publication date at least, that properly defines and reveals how the culture's contact division, and more specifically, its clandestine special circumstances, operate. not shying away from employing misdirection, infiltration, manipulation, and violence to advance its goals. Even though more often than not a form of external operatives are used for the more unpleasant tasks. Zakalwi, one of the most interesting main characters in Use of Weapons, is a prime example here. Him turning out to be a war criminal and torturer of his surrogate family members in the twisted ending twist is certainly a highlight of the Culture series, if you ask me. Moving on to the top 3, the player of games made the 3rd place. As the second entry to the Culture series in terms of its publication date, it already foreshadowed how Special Circumstances operates, even though this was only done quite subtly and in hindsight after having read other novels of the series. Apart from that, Gurge is one of the most interesting protagonists that I was able to identify with quite well. However, I found out in previous discussions related to the play of games that this is purely subjective and that others thought that Gurge was a rather bland character. Another unique advantage of the play of games is that it is gripping and tightly written, not even reaching a page count of 300. Thus, there are basically no meandering parts, making it one of the best novels to jump into the series. The runner-up on 2nd place is Accession. The focus on the artificial intelligences or minds, which control various forms of spaceships or even entire orbitals, pull all the strings within the Culture, and how there are numerous factions with competing goals makes the Culture series special. The quirky back and forth chatter between these AIs is quite entertaining and probably one of the reasons why some of these ended up as namesakes of SpaceX's drone ships. Heck, even their ridiculous names are entertaining. The accession as an out-of-context problem and the ramifications that such a concept has on real life give the novel Accession further weight. However, a minor criticism is the somewhat bland human-centered subplots, even though it still poses some interesting questions regarding human relationships if these are long-lived and have the option to truly change their biological sex. And finally, at the very top of my personal list, you can find Surface Detail. It is probably the most rounded book in terms of its writing style. It offers a wide array of perspectives, from the very personal to the galacto-political, the unique concept of virtual hells to discipline a society's citizens, the intergalactic tensions the mere existence of these hells causes, and the truly messed up, gory description of one of these hells make Surface Detail unique, although the latter point might not be for everyone. To top it off, we are rewarded with some interesting cameos and callbacks to other novels in the series, most notably Use of Weapons. Well, this concludes my personal ranking of the Culture series novels. Overall, my personal ranking more or less matches the order of the books if we take the combined ratings based on Goodreads, Library Thing and Amazon reviews as a metric. The only clear deviation between these two lists would be my comparatively low ranking for Look to Windward and my more optimistic and positive view on Use of Weapons. What are your thoughts? Do you agree or disagree with my personal ranking? If you want to chime in, feel free to leave a comment. If you liked this video, you may also enjoy the other reviews and content on my channel. Feel free to leave a comment if you want to discuss the novels or if you want to suggest other books that I should review in the future. Please consider upvoting and subscribing, it is much appreciated. Thank you for watching and until next time.